Ladies and gentlemen, welcome one and all back to October Nights. As you well know, I am a little bit behind on making these videos. I'm not super behind on watching movies. In fact, I'm up to date, but these episodes are a bit behind, so sorry about that. I'm going to be filming those in a batch right now. I think I'm filming 3 back to back, good lord. But yeah, thank you for your patience. I'm going to refer to my handy dandy tablet right here for notes and stuff, so just know that's what I'm doing. For tonight's episode of October Nights, we're talking about the fantastic new film from Netflix, a classic horror story. Now I don't even have to edit that in post. I've done it live in camera. Look how smart I'm thinking ahead. Must be all the blood that's going through my brain having to do this entire episode upside down. I don't know why I did this to myself, but you know, here we are. But let's talk about our movie for the night. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again quickly here. Netflix sucks at marketing their movies. This is a movie that came out in July of this year, and I just found out about it like last month. So obviously this is something I was interested in when I finally saw the trailer for it. But I was surprised that this just kind of got buried so quickly because it's an interesting movie. Pretty meta, and if you read the description or watched last night's episode, I called this a French horror film, which it's not. This is Italian. I apologize. This is not supposed to be Italian discrimination, and the languages don't even sound that similar to me. It's just my brain misremembered the film and I hadn't seen it yet, so I didn't know. So yeah, I apologize to all Italians that will watch this. I didn't mean to misattribute this to the French. Frankly, I haven't seen a ton of French horror. I'm much more acquainted with the Italian people who made horror, specifically Dario Argento. So this was a pretty fun turn in newer horror, being meta and, you know, it obviously reflecting a lot of classic films that built what is now the modern horror, like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Hostel, in other films of that ilk. Obviously Sam Raimi is literally quoted in the trailer, so there's a lot of imagery that feels familiar, but this is its own thing, and it's part of this pastiche-tional love letter to what makes this specific genre so great, and how, though we may see the same images over and over again, could be something different and new, and it could be saying something that we haven't heard before. And even if it is saying something that we've heard before, maybe it's still worth being said. So let's dive into tonight's film and talk about it just a little bit deeper so we can, you know, chat about it. I'd love to hear your thoughts about this movie. If you watch it, down in the comment section below, that's what they're for. Please, if you hated this movie, let me know why. If you loved it, I'm glad. If you watched this video and it convinced you to go see it, please let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Please, I can respond pretty much any hour of the day. I have no sleep schedule. So yeah, check it out. Now, when I was planning to watch this movie, I just had seen the trailer, and on spec I was immediately like, yep, I want to watch this seems cool. I don't know, it had Wicker Man vibes and Texas Chainsaw Massacre vibes and all kinds of stuff, and it just seemed like right up my alley because I've been digging into classic horror and a lot of stuff like that, so I really wanted to check out a film that was a love letter to that, and classic horror story fit that bill, whilst also not sacrificing the Italian identity and, you know, leaning into that kind of cultural aspect. It was a lot of fun. Directors Roberto and Paolo Stippoli, apologies for butchering your name, I know I did that, made a really cool film. They also co-wrote it alongside Lucio Bassana, Milo Tisone, and David Bellini. I'm about as white bread as they come. I'm not good at pronouncing names, and I apologize. If someone knows how to pronounce their names, put it in the comment section below, and maybe one day I'll fix this video with the correct pronunciations. But these are supposed to be quick, like filmed right after I see the movie, so that we get my honest thoughts right out the gate. When I first saw the trailer, obviously, I was interested, but I had recently watched the movie Revenge, which is a rape revenge thriller that's on Shudder right now, if you want to check it out. And it's a different kind of rape revenge film because typically there's exploitation, and then the people who get revenge on the exploited are the parents, the father specifically, and so the woman who is violated doesn't get any agency in getting revenge, and so that kind of sucks, and it's one of the main attributes of that subgenre of horror. And this film subverts that, in that not only is the person that is violated gets a chance to enact her revenge, she does so exceptionally harshly, and it's also written and directed by a woman, and that allows us to see this story from a different lens. It is hyper violent, hyper reality. It's very interesting and it's very well done, and the part of exploitation cinema that makes it so interesting is that it kind of flips the script after the first act of the film, where the main character in that film, Jen, who's played by Matilda Lutz, is kind of has this male gaze, even with the camera and the way that the other actors and the characters they play are leering at her. But she's in full command of her sexuality and who she is until she is violated. At that point, she gets revenge and, you know, is able to punish the people who violated her. And it's done so in a very hyper-violent, realized way, and it's very compelling. But in that second bit of the film, once she's the one that's on the hunt, the camera leers at the guys instead. And it's super interesting to see a movie shot from that angle and shot that way. It's really cool. If you can handle the subject matter of that film, obviously it's a lot, but it's a really well-made film. It has incredible wonders, incredible cinematography, and a very tense and amazing film. So yeah, check it out. The main reason I'm mentioning that is that the main actor from that film, Matilda Lutz, is also in this film and is our main character here as well. And once I saw that she was in this, it made me even more excited to see this movie. And while I don't think she gets a lot of depth, I think a lot of these characters end up falling into more tropes per se. It ends up, the more you learn about this film, that is wholly intentional. And while personally I tend to relate to horror films that are much more character-oriented, I do appreciate the fact that this film was going full meta and trying to lean into those nuances. But Eliza's character does get the most realized character identity, with things that are going on in her life that are very interesting, and the character choices that she's having to make are pretty monumental, including that she's considering getting an abortion before she even gets involved with this cult-like thing that's happening. Very interesting. The rest of the characters are absolutely amazing too. Fabricio, Ricardo, Mark, and Sophia round out our dwindling party that we're seeing, who are taken out in the middle of nowhere in the night while they're sleeping and forced to try and survive and find a way out of this situation. It quickly becomes nightmarish, and some of the things that they have to witness are absolutely diabolical. And it's what makes this film so dark, interesting, and unique. This film is not only willing to commentate on the horror genre as a whole, but commentate on itself, and that meta-ness allows you to kind of take a breather from some of the darker elements of the film. Take a breather. It's neat. It's pretty nice. It's clever in its own way, and the twists that it goes through are pretty interesting. But I imagine, you know, like many horror films, is going to be largely dismissed because it's not saying anything revolutionary per se, but it's telling a compelling story, and it has some pretty decent characters. And I think the cinematography here is absolutely gorgeous to look at. If nothing else, I think every film on this list that we're going to end up discussing is beautiful in the visual department, and A Classic Horror Story is no exception in that. The visuals here are fantastic, and what we end up with is a compelling story with compelling characters shot absolutely gorgeously. Sure, it may fall into tropes, but I think part of this film is commentating on those tropes, and that's what makes it a quote-unquote classic horror story. It's an interesting movie. It's got some interesting things to say and an interesting way to deliver it. And I think if you are into these kinds of movies, this might be something you want to check out, especially, you know, since it's a foreign horror. I hope this has been something that has been interesting and worthwhile to you, but regardless, I do hope that you take the time to check out this movie. It's on Netflix, super accessible. I highly recommend it. It's only like 90-something minutes, so it's a breeze to get through. And once it gets going, it's super compelling. And there's some great scares and even some really funny jokes. So yeah, I hope you check it out. Thank you so much for watching this. I've been your host and curator for October Nights, Patrick Smith, and I only got one thing left to say to you. Sweet dreams.